Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share our story with everyone. What I'd like to start with is just a bit of a background on what we do. And Alon touched on this. We're more than just a food company and frankly, more than an appliance company. We're in the business of saving people time. There's a lot of businesses now that have popped up that do food delivery in different ways. And there's a lot of businesses that have popped up that do unique, smart, connected appliances. What we do that's different is we do both of those things, and we build the software that's the glue in between. To be more specific, we are a food company where we prepare meals, ship them to your doorstep. We do all of the preparation. So as you can see here, we source our salmon. It's not cultured salmon, but maybe one day it will be. You see the green beans here. We make all of our sauces from scratch. But part of what's different in this process is a lot of what arrives to you as our customer is raw. It's not actually pre-cooked, and it's not intended to be reheated in a microwave. So that's the first part of what we do. The second part is that we have built a countertop kitchen oven that cooks our food automatically. So it eliminates the pain and the process of going through cooking food every weeknight when you're tired and you're busy, and what you don't want to do is spend 30 minutes cooking and another 15 minutes cleaning. Our meals are designed to be cooked in our oven just by scanning a QR code. And essentially what that does is it will download the right cooking instructions to the oven. So the oven cooks the meal exactly the way our chefs have intended. So that might mean a certain degree of steam at a low temperature. For this dish, it would finish with a very high heat broil so that sauce would caramelize really nicely on the salmon. The idea is that the meal and the whole experience is the same as home cooking, but without any of the work. So there's no shopping, there's no preparation, there's no cooking, there's no cleanup, but your home still smells great. Your food comes out super hot. You get caramelization, you get browning, all of these elements of the home cooked meal without any of the things that cause problems and cause people to not cook on a regular basis. So that's the gist of our business. We launched about 3 years ago. And I think, like everyone here, have had a very interesting last 3 months during COVID and have some unique insights to share, I would say. So the first thing for us is on food safety. You would think that's immediately where our heads would go with regards to COVID, but one of the things that makes our business fundamentally different, really, than anyone on the market, is that we have what's called a kill step in the home. So when we ship consumers our food, we know exactly what they're going to do with it and what the oven is supposed to do when they scan that QR code. And if something goes haywire or they claim something has gone wrong, because the oven is Wi-Fi enabled, we can actually see what the oven did. Did it get up to the temperature it was supposed to? Did it hold that temperature for as long as we expected? Things of that nature. So when COVID hit, actually, we were not immediately worried about food safety. That's not where our heads went. There were two places. The first I'm going to touch on is food cost. So as you see here, and we talked about this in some of the other presentations, this is a chart of pork prices in the United States over the last 4 years. Each of those lines marks 1 year of price changes. So you can see historically, there's very little change in the pork market. And then you see this dramatic jump in March of 2020. So we serve pork, we serve beef, we serve chicken, we do serve salmon, and pork and beef in particular are the ones where we've seen the highest uptick in price, and a very big one for a business that does make money on its food product. And historically, we've actually never changed the price of our meals. They've been $11.99 across the board. But because of this rise in price, it's causing us to rethink that and start to explore ways that we can upcharge without degrading the customer experience or causing customers to churn from the service. What's interesting is with pork, as we talk to our suppliers, they feel like there will be a leveling off relatively soon. In some ways, because the life of a pig and to grow a pig is a lot quicker and easier than it is with a cow. So beef prices, we don't really know when those will come back down to earth, but pork, we feel a little better. That being said, for the foreseeable future, at least the next 2, 3, 4 months, this is the new reality. And so we've had to adapt our menu compositions, like I said, starting to evaluate pricing of our meals and things of that nature. So that was the first place we really saw impact, or the second rather. The more important one, I would say, is on employee safety. So our number one goal as a company pre-COVID was shipping 100% of our meals safely. The number one goal post-COVID is the same. The difference, I would say, is that now we have to think even harder about employee safety than we did before. And what I mean by that is probably all of the obvious things. Now our employees all have masks and PPE. Washing their hands has become an even more frequent event than it was before. But even things like spacing people out in a food facility is complicated. And so we have added a third shift in order to have fewer people on each shift. And we've changed some of the way we run our operation to facilitate this as well. We're doing symptom screens in front. We're very proactive with sending people home, even if they have what are most likely allergies. But employee safety, while always important, has now become all the more important and critical and taking a lot of our resource and mental energy. And that I would say is the biggest change for us, some of which will stick, I would say, once we're post-COVID, and some of which will go away. What I'd like to close with and spend a few minutes here is talking about our rapid growth and really how that ties to COVID, and how it makes prioritization of our goals particularly important. So you can see we had a massive uptick, and we had been growing at a pretty solid rate between September 2018 to September 2019. But then September 2019, things really took off for our business. This is not the time or the place to talk about our rebrand as a company and what drove that. But what I do want to talk about is what's happened since March, where we were already in this very, very rapid growth phase, that was driven by this rebrand, which I alluded to. But then COVID happened, and all of a sudden, like we've been talking about, everybody was at home, restaurants are closed down, and now you're trying to manage 21 meals a week at home, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you have a whole new level of stress and responsibilities that you didn't have before. And so what we saw, the first indicator was that our existing customers were ordering more food. And over the course of 2 weeks, this happened very quickly. Our average order value went up nearly 15%, which is a huge jump. And then very quickly after that, we started to see demand go up from prospective customers. And the reason why I tie that to the slide before around priorities is that we have ultimately made a call that for us, employee safety is number one, food quality is number two, fulfilling demand is number three. And so even though we are growing very dramatically, we could be growing even faster if those priorities were flipped. But for us, it's not worth growing even faster if we're going to compromise those two. So just a little bit on what I think will happen post-COVID. Frankly, we believed that our product was fundamentally better than the alternatives on the market when you think about how do I solve dinner on a busy Tuesday night. Whether that's food delivery, meal kits, or prepared food, we felt like we're offering a superior product. But what COVID has done, we believe, is accelerate adoption of our product, and will continue to do that post-COVID. A lot more people are aware of who we are and what we're doing, and people that you wouldn't expect at this stage of a startup life, and in terms of our industry, it's still pretty nascent. And so what we think would have happened over the course of 5 to 7 years is probably going to get shrunk down, and just allow us to grow a lot faster, a lot more quickly. Once the COVID time period closes. So, for us, despite the fact that it's injected a ton of uncertainty and stress and new challenges into our business, from a pure business standpoint, it's been very good for us. It's been a boon for our business that we think will continue once the pandemic ends. So just I'll answer a couple of these questions, and then I know we're running short on time. So one of the questions is around the size of the meals. The meals are designed for one person, but you can cook two at the same time. They're not really optimized for a family of 3 or 4 to all eat Tovala together. The larger families that we have that are customers, they tend to eat meals at different times, or the parents eat food that's different than the kids. And part of the value proposition is all of the food goes in at once and comes out together. So you don't have to babysit it the way you would if you were cooking yourself. Next question is around kosher certified meals. It's a hope of ours, but not on the roadmap in the short term. It is unfortunately quite complicated. Couple more questions and then we'll call it. Another question around kosher, and then one question around Wi-Fi. And so, is there some risk of hacking the oven? We've taken that seriously from day one, and built, what we believe is a very secure platform. We've had no incidences of hacking into the ovens, and I think the decision to invest resource in that from day one when we were building, particularly the firmware and software, I think will protect us in the future. So thank you very much, and really enjoyed being here, and I really appreciate the time.